What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boys over here at Three Man Weave. I'm your lovely co-host ZD in the building with CJ. We coming at you guys live, man. It's a Wednesday. It's March 4th. I think we've been feeling pretty good, CJ. We've been chopping it up for like the last hour. Thunder are playing right now versus the Knicks. Lakers got a W versus the Pellies. It was close, but hey, we got to take them where we can get them. I keep coming on the pod and I keep saying that. I mean, you got to get every W that you can as the season comes down to an end. I'm feeling pretty good. I had a pretty good day today. The shorts have been rocking. We appreciate you guys for rocking with us. And if you're new here, welcome to Three Man Weave. But CJ, how you feeling today, bro? How you doing?
I'm feeling good, bro. Obviously if the audience don't know, for our viewers at least, I'm not mirrored anymore. So that was a huge thing that I was
Hey,
talking to Z last time we
birthday
shot. Just
Friday too. Ooh, ooh.
birthdays on Friday, yes, sir. Yeah, no, I'm feeling good, bro. I've had off this whole week, so it's really giving me time to decompress and really just get stuff done and also just kind of relax at the same time. So been enjoying my time off and been able to watch a lot of hoops yesterday. So I'm excited to chop it up with you about some of these games, and obviously we'll get to our some storylines of the week that we got as well. And then of course the Thunder were able to get a dub last night. So anytime that happens, it's always a good day for me. And yeah,
Yes,
no, man,
sir.
I'm excited, bro. This is gonna be a good podcast. We're gonna be talking about Coach of the Year race as well. I think that's one that we were talking about as well, where a lot of fans might not think it's interesting, but for us, we've been watching the season, 3 seasons, 4 seasons in a row, so it's something that we enjoy to talk about, and something that I think we owe it to our audience to kind of show them all the awards and who are in the running for each of them. So I'm excited, bro. It's a good day, and can't wait to get this one rolling.
Yeah, let's do it, brother. I think we're gonna kick it off with the previews today because I feel like the games are they're good for sure. I'm interested in these matchups. We got 6 on the slate today. But first game, CJ, would you like to chop it up about your Thunder? Or you want me to take it away?
I'll take it away, sir. I'll start off with
Okay, go ahead. Go
this
ahead.
one.
Yeah,
So,
I'll let you.
first tip off of the day, it was at 6 p.m. Central Time. Is the Thunder versus Knicks? The Thunder are missing Jalen Williams, AJ Mitchell, and iHeart. The Knicks are missing Deuce McBride, and Mitchell Robinson is listed as a game time decision as well. Some storylines for this game, man. This is the first matchup between the Knicks and Thunder this season. The Thunder rank first in the West with a 48-15 record. The Knicks rank second in the East with a 40-22 record. So obviously this is, probably the marquee matchup of the night, and it just so happened to be the first game of the night. So, we're able to watch a little bit of that, but we'll have to watch the recap, and just excited to
Yeah.
see what this game ends up looking like. But the Knicks and the Thunder are currently on a 3-game winning streak. Over those 3 games, the Knicks ranked third in the NBA in net rating with a plus 24, and the Thunder ranked ninth in the NBA in net rating with a plus 8.9. So, man, this is like I just said it, man. This is probably the game of the night for me, obviously, because it's the Thunder. But even if it wasn't, just being the best team in the West and the second best in the East, that kind of already builds up the storyline for the night. But I think this is gonna be a good one, bro. Shea sat out yesterday against the Bulls, and we'll talk about that whenever we get to Thunder analysis.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
he
yeah.
missed that.
He's close. He's
Yeah,
close, CJ.
he's getting. I think he needs to play like
He close.
14 of the last 19 for us, so he can't miss it a lot more games. So I think it was just obviously he's back this game in the Garden. Of course, you already know how that goes. I feel like a lot of people, that's like their moment that they want to have is oh, I dropped 40 in the Garden. So not saying that, or that might happen, but obviously I think just the way we've been playing. I gotta rock with the Thunder, man. Just seeing the way they've been playing without our best players, and Shea being back, obviously being our best player, just kind of. I think I talked about it on Monday. Just seeing how the team plays a lot differently, and we're able to, get shot creation a lot easier than it was whenever we don't have him. But obviously,
Yeah.
with the Knicks having a plus 24 net rating over the last 3 is crazy. I feel like they've kind of turned their season around a little bit. They weren't really bad. I think what they've been doing a lot better on is the defensive side of the ball. So that's going to be interesting to see what that looks like against us. You know how it's been for us and struggling from 3. Obviously, we're kind of doing a lot better now since Jared McCain has, been stepping into our lineup, and I think he dropped 20 the other night. So just seeing what he's been able to do, our bench production. Wallace is doing incredible as well. Isaiah Joe has been flamethrowers. So I think this is going to be a good one, bro. I think this is going to be, obviously probably the best defensive teams, top five, I would say, within the past probably 10 games, 5 games. So I think, expectations coming into the game were probably a defensive matchup. But I think this is going to be a good one, bro. I think it's going to be a little bit of shootout. But I think I got the Thunder in this one, man. It's going to be good. Like we said about, I didn't bring him up, but Jalen Brunson has been doing what we've
Hey, bro,
seen, been accustomed to him seeing do for the last couple, or since he went to the Knicks. Being the captain of the team. Cat's been dominating on the board, so that matchup between him and Chet, him and Ihart are going. Or I think Ihart went. I'm not too sure. I know it was he might have sat. Yeah, but
okay.
obviously
I didn't see him on the court though when we
um
watched.
yeah,
Because
I think I'm thinking of yesterday because he played yesterday.
okay,
But even if he didn't go, just the matchup with Cat, obviously, and then they have their wings and McCall Bridges and OG Anunoby, who's McCall Bridges has been pretty good for the most part. OG has kind of been inconsistent on the offensive side, but what he could do on the defensive side of the ball. But I think I'm leaning. I gotta lean towards the Thunder, man. Of course, it's my team, but I just think the way that they've been playing. Bias aside, just we're able to get performances from everyone. It seems like throughout this whole season, I think our depth is going to be the main thing to really catapult us to this win. And the Knicks have been playing very well, but I think we could give them a run for their money in the Garden. So rocking with the Thunder in this one.
I agree, man. I think the Knicks, they've been great, and I think we'll get into that conversation a little later too with the Coach of the Year stuff, but. The Thunder, bro. I mean, they've just been so resilient this year, even with all the injuries. You talked about Shea and how, you can't miss those games. But honestly, I think that's helped them. What I saw in the first quarter before we hopped on here, like seeing Chet play with confidence. You were talking about KP and Wendy. They had this little back and forth before the game started. And Kendrick Perkins was all, oh, Chet he needs to score.
Mm-hmm.
And Wendy was like, nah, man, he had a 20 rebound performance with 16 points. Like, they got guys who can do their thing. I got to go with the Thunder, bro. They're just so deep. Case and Wallace is going to be matched up on Jalen Brunson as well. So I just think it's a matchup thing. I think the Knicks are a great team, and obviously they're at home. But just looking at this game for what it is, you got to go with the Thunder, right? And I'm riding with you. I'm riding with you, my guy. So,
yes, sir. Yes,
Thunder
sir.
it is. Thunder it is. But the next game. This one was at 6:30 about an hour ago. It's the Hornets versus Celtics. Celtics are at home. The Hornets are on the road. The Celtics are missing Jason Tatum. Supposedly he's out for the season. The reason we keep putting him on the report is there's reports that he's coming back. Mm-hmm. So I want to keep you guys updated because I know one day that may change. So I'm sorry if that one's repetitive, but yes, missing Tatum. The Hornets have listed Kobe White and Grant Williams as game time decisions. Nobody is listed as out for the Hornets. So they're pretty healthy. I don't know if Kobe Williams and Grant Williams went, but we'll see. Kobe White, sorry. Storylines for this game, though. This is the first matchup of the season between the Hornets and the Celtics. Over the last 5 games, the Hornets rank 5th in the NBA in overall net rating with a plus 23.8. So,
sheesh.
Hey, man, we've talked about the Hornets sparingly throughout this podcast and this season, but again, we'll talk about Coach Lee later. But Con Knuppel, Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball, Diabate, the Moose, right?
Yep.
Guys. Charlotte has been great. I'd honestly argue, obviously the Celtics have too. The Celtics have been great as well. The Celtics ranked 2nd in the NBA in net rating over that same span of the 5 games with a plus 17.3. So both of these teams have been great. They've both, I would say, outperformed expectations relative to what we thought going into the year. Obviously, the Celtics didn't have Tatum, so we didn't know what to expect. They've also had a ton of roster turnover. No Porzingis, no Horford, no more Simons. They have Vucevic. The Hornets, on the other hand, though, I did not think that they'd be competing for a playoff spot. And I think just they've been white hot, not red hot over the last month, white hot. It's going to be a good matchup in this one. Also, over the last 15 games, both the Hornets and the Celtics are both 12-3 and ranked top 5 in the NBA in overall net rating, even with the sample size increase. So, like I just got done talking about, I think the Hornets and Celtics probably is the best game of the night in terms of just record and I wouldn't say best game. I'd say the Thunder and Knicks is pretty good, right? That
Hmm.
East number one versus number two. But new teams and how teams have been performing over the last month, these are the best. I mean, the two best teams in the NBA, pretty much.
Hmm.
So I don't know. It's tough for me to say who's gonna win this game, bro. I think I gotta go with the Celtics, even though I don't want to.
Hmm.
It's tough because the Hornets have been number one in 3-point percentage as well. And like I just got done saying, that both of these teams have been the best teams in the NBA over the last month. So yeah, I gotta take the C's, bro. I think everybody's healthy too. Give me the Celtics.
Yeah, this is one of the tougher ones to decide for me as well, just because of how hot both of these teams have been, but really how hot the Hornets have been. I feel like, like you said it earlier, Celtics, didn't expect them to be doing this well, but we definitely did not expect the Hornets to be, like you said, white hot as of late within the last 15, like we said earlier. But I think I'm leaning the C's as well. I think the not inexperience, right? Because it's not like a playoff game and whatnot.
No,
But I
no,
think
no.
just the way that they both play, kind of it favors Missoula ball. Putting up threes. Playing good defense. I think this is gonna just really rely on if the Hornets are gonna be able to play good defense, and they have been. But they
Yeah.
haven't really been able. They haven't gone against a team that is probably just going to be playing at the same pace as them. So that's the only reason why I'm really going C's. But I think this is going to be a good one, bro. I think this might
Yeah,
be a
no
little bit
doubt.
of a shootout, and I think it's going to be a lot closer than what people probably are assuming. I didn't see what the spread was prior to us going in, but I'd assume it. It's pretty favorable. It's not like out of the woodworks. Some people would say, but I'm leaning the C's as
Mhm.
well, bro.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. And the Hornets have been, I think, like I got to give them credit because truthfully, the fact that we even have to think about it, them versus the Celtics, I think says a lot about
Says
where
a
Charlotte
lot.
is. So
It says a
I'll
lot,
finish out
bro.
on that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Going into the next game we had, it also tipped off at 6:30. We have the Jazz versus 76ers. The Jazz are missing Laurie Markkinen, Vince Williams Jr., Yusuf Nurkic, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Walker Kessler. The 76ers are missing Joel Embiid and Paul George. VJ Edgecombe and Kelly Oubre are listed as a game time decision as well. Some storylines from this matchup. This is the first matchup of the season between the Jazz and the 76ers. The Sixers, over their last 10 games, ranked 24th in the NBA in net rating with a minus 8.6. The Jazz ranked
Mhm.
20th in the NBA over that same span with a net rating of minus 3.9. Both the Sixers and Jazz have a losing record over the last 10 games, too, as the Sixers are 4-6 and the Jazz are 2-8. Man, this is.
Mm.
I watched that game between the Jazz and the Nuggets. I think it was last night or the night
Okay.
before Monday, and man,
Yeah.
just seeing
Keontae George.
Keontae George, bro. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it's gonna be a good matchup between some of the most exciting guards in this league, I would say, and Maxi and George. So I think that's what it's really gonna rely on. Obviously, the Jazz, having the list of names that I already brought up for their injury report, but just seeing what he was able to do, man, I don't. I think it might be interesting because the 76ers have been in, I feel like half of their games this season have been clutch games, considering, Tyrese Maxey was in our clutch player of the year race. But I think this is going to be, I think the Sixers played yesterday against the Spurs, got smacked. I think they're going to go off of that loss and they're going to be coming firing, bro. So I got the Sixers in this one. But I think the Jazz could make it interesting. I've seen, bright spots that they've had, and their offense, whenever Keontae isn't going, is a little
Yeah.
sus. But if he is able to get it going, I think it's going to be a closer game. But I still got the Sixers in this one.
Yeah, I like the bounce back spot. I think you did a good job of talking about that. The Spurs whooped on them, right?
Whooped them,
And you
bro.
got to we've talked about the Spurs a lot too on this pod. I think we're not banning them, but like we're like Western Conference foes. We're
Mm,
Lakers and Thunder fans over here. But yeah, that loss definitely will whip you into shape. I think VJ and Maxi as well have been doing well since the All Star break. No Embiid. Embiid hasn't played much, but he seems to be going in this one. So I got to go with the Sixers. They've played well with Embiid in the lineup. We did the summer of Joel Embiid. I don't know if you remember that during the
hmm.
offseason, but he's played like brilliantly when he's been out there. He hasn't played like a ton of games, but man, he's been awesome. So yeah, I'm rolling with the Sixers too at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the Jazz, like Keontae George, is one thing, one piece of the equation, but you got so many guys out. Injuries have just kind of killed the team, and I guess Larry Markkinen is hurt, right? The independent doctors and all this, the BS with the tanking, all of that good stuff. It seems to be cleared up now. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. Next game. So this game was at 7 p.m. about an hour ago. This one was versus the Blazers and the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies were at home. The Blazers are on the road. The Blazers are missing Shaedon Sharpe and Damian Lillard, who's OFS. Denny Advia and Chris Murray are listed as game time decisions. The Grizzlies are without Zach Edey and Santi Aldama. Cedric Coward, Ty Jerome, and Scottie Pippen Jr. are listed as game time decisions for the Grizzlies. Some of the storylines for this matchup, though, over the last 5 games, the Grizzlies ranked 22nd in the NBA in defensive rating, allowing 115 points per 100. Over that same span, the Trailblazers ranked 27th in the NBA in offensive rating, scoring just 105.4 points per 100 possessions. So kind of, Denny, question mark, may not win most improved because he might miss some time. I think the Trailblazers have struggled mightily on defense for some odd reason. I think Klingon, Drew Holiday, they're probably the best. Kumara as well. They're all plus defenders, but I think offensively is one thing. I think they'll be able to get it going whenever Advi is back in the lineup, but the reason they've been losing truly is their defense. So I think this is a game, kind of a get right spot for them in terms of if Advia does miss, which I don't know if he did. We'll find out a little bit later. And you guys, whenever this pod drops, you guys will know. But I think without Advia in the lineup, I think it's more worrisome about their offense than their defense. Obviously, the Blazers have been such an up and down team this year, kind of been the darlings of the early season, and now turning into what we kind of know and love, the Trailblazers that we all are accustomed to and used to, unfortunately. This is also the 4th matchup between the Grizzlies and the Blazers this season, with the Trailblazers leading the season series 2-1. So that's also another key caveat. I think when we get deep into the year, teams have played each other multiple times. We'll start bringing that up in the storylines. But I think even with the Trailblazers leading the season series, I'm going with the Grizzlies. I think they got a little bit of fight in them. We'll have to see if Edey and Aldama go. That'll help as well. But I am rolling with the Grizzlies. I think Jalen Wells, Gigi Jackson, I think they'll be able to get it done. And I just feel like the Trailblazers might struggle on both sides of the ball tonight. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm kind of leading the Grizz as well. Obviously, if Denny played or not is a huge factor in this decision. But even when he is there, like you said, they've been struggling a lot on the defensive side, and I feel like that's something all last season that we were praising them about. And then even towards the beginning of this, half of this season, they were doing pretty well, and they've since the All-Star break, it seems like they're kind of falling off in that aspect. Obviously, you brought him up. Klingon has been doing pretty well. I think he's pretty much averaging a double-double, 2 blocks, whatever it is. So he's doing his part.
He's been awesome since the All-Star break.
Yeah, he's been doing really good. But I just think with, not having, both of these teams don't really have a lot of firing power. But I think with the Trailblazers kind of struggling, it like you said, it's kind of like a get right game for the Grizzlies, and kind of showing that the top, even with the plethora of players that they have on the injury list, I think they can they can scrape this win out. It may not be the prettiest, but being home in Memphis, I feel like they always have a really good turnout, and their fans and the crowd is always hype there. I think I'm rocking with the Grizz in this one as well, bro. I think it's gonna be an ugly game though, but
yeah, that one's gross for sure.
Head into this next game, man. It's a 8:30 tip off. We have the Hawks versus Bucks. The Bucks are missing Taurean Prince, and the Hawks have no injured players listed. So shout out to that. That's always a great thing to have whenever you're about to play a game. Some storylines for this game. This is the second matchup of the year between the Bucks and the Hawks. The Bucks lead the season series 1-0 after defeating Atlanta on January 19th, 112 to 110. Over their last 10 games, Atlanta ranks 12th in the NBA in overall net rating with a plus 4.2. Over that same span, the Bucks ranked 21st in the NBA in net rating with a minus 6.4. Over 10 games, Atlanta is 6-4 and Milwaukee is 5-5, making this a fairly even matchup record wise. Uh, Man, I think this is gonna be a good one, bro. Obviously, Giannis is back. We didn't say bring him up whenever we were talking about the injury list. So I think that's gonna be a huge thing. But I think with the Hawks, man, just what Jalen Johnson has been able to do, we brought him up in the MIP race, right? That was, probably I think he was our number two, but like you brought up earlier, since Denny's been missing time, I think that might be his award to lose at this point. But just what he's been able to do, what Nah has been able to do, Nikhil Alexander Walker, they're getting a lot
Yeah.
of Aneka Okongwu has been having a
Ooh,
low
he's been
key, a
awesome.
very underrated year. I think
He's been
I was
awesome.
looking through his game or his stats for the season. I think he's put up more threes than he has in all his seasons combined, and he's shooting at a pretty efficient level. For everything considered, so this is gonna be a good game, bro. Obviously, the Atlanta was able to scrape out that dub when they first met. I don't know. I'm kind of leaning Bucks for them being home. Giannis, I think this was his second game back, third game back, something like that. He's
Second game.
second game
Yeah, he
at
he
home.
returned versus the Celtics. I think he scored like 20 points or something.
Yeah, so obviously he's him being one of the best players in the league already puts an advantage in for them. But I think it's going to be really based off of what the guard play of what the Bucks can do, because in the absence of Giannis, they've been able to still be pretty competitive wise, and I think we'll talk about that later on in the
Oh
in the
yeah, we
pod for
will.
one of the storylines of the week. But I think I'm leaning Bucks, bro. I think that the way that they've been playing, obviously having Giannis there is going to switch up the flow of the game. But I think we've been able to see in the absence of him, having the Ryan Rollins, Kevin Porter Jr. has been balling out as well. They just seems like they're playing on a cohesive unit. I think kind of gonna side with them for this one. But this is another one of those games where it's kind of a toss up for me. But leaning more towards the Bucks in this one. But what do you think, Z?
Oh man, I'm not too sure. I think KPJ's had a hell of a season, Ryan Rollins, but I actually think the Hawks, I think no injuries. We're gonna see their full lineup. Kaminga's had a hell of the last 3 games. I think you picked him up in your dynasty for that reason.
I sure did.
I just think Atlanta's played a style of basketball that gives the Bucks fits. I think the matchup is also tough. Giannis obviously won't be stopped, but I just don't think the Bucks have enough firepower in this one per se. So I'm gonna go with the Hawks, actually the road team.
Gotcha.
Um, I feel like they can just steal a win here, and I just want to see what Jalen Johnson does tonight. So I think
Hmm.
this one is on YouTube TV. It's the other NBC one, or is it? It's no, is it ESPN today? I think it's
I think it's
ESPN.
ESPN. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's Wednesday. So yeah, ESPN Hawks versus Bucks should be a good one. This is the last game of the night, though. 9:30 p.m. Pacers versus Clippers. The West Coast Clippers are at home. The Pacers are on the road. The Pacers are missing Ivica Zubac, who was supposed to be his first game back, but is missing this one. Obi Toppin, obviously Andrew Nemhard, Pascal Siakam, and Aaron Nesmith are listed as game time decisions. So the Pacers are missing just Zubac and Toppin, and then Nemhard, Siakam, and Nesmith are listed as game time decisions. The Clippers are missing John Collins and Bradley Beal. So Bradley Beal is out for the season. John Collins has that injury, I think, to his groin. Hopefully they're all good. Storylines for this game, though, this is the first matchup of the year between the Pacers and the Clippers. The Pacers, over their last 5 games, ranked 29th in the NBA in overall net rating with a minus 16.4. The Clippers, over that same span, ranked 10th in the NBA in overall net rating with a plus 3.8. Over the last 15 games, the Clippers ranked 13th in the NBA in offensive rating, scoring 114 points per 100 possessions. The Pacers, over that same span, ranked 21st in the NBA in offensive rating, scoring 110.7 points per 100 possessions. I think the Pacers they might be last in the NBA in offensive rating on the season. They've struggled a lot to score the ball this year. I think outside of Pascal and at times Andrew Nemhard, they've just lacked the ability to consistently score. On the other hand, the Clippers have had Kawhi Leonard, who's been an absolute alien for the last 2 months of the season, and then Darius Garland, who played his first game the other day. I think they ended up getting a W. He did pretty well. I actually think that'll be a really good fit. So Clippers fans, that seems like that'll be a good thing for you guys. I'm going with the Clippers at home. Just with the Pacers season, seems like they're one of the taking teams that I banned on this show. We're not really going to talk about that, but they're definitely in the running for a pick this season. Give me the Clippers, man. I think the Clippers are fighting for a playing spot. They're trying to compete. They obviously don't have that draft pick. They traded Zubac away this season. Yeah, I just think they're gonna be fiery. They're gonna be hungry to come out and get this dub. So yeah, give me the Clips, even though I'm
Yeah.
not a Clippers fan.
Yeah, I'm leaning the Clips too, bro. You said it, the one and only Claw. You know what I mean? Kawhi
Oh
Leonard's been
man,
balling
Kawhi.
out. I think he's averaging his career high in points this year. Obviously, I didn't know that off the top of my head. I think when I was watching the game that Darius Garland just played a couple nights ago, just they brought that up, and I was like, man, yeah, makes sense. He's been killing, but just obviously we've just been seeing him do this all season, so I think it's going to be the same thing, especially all those game time decisions for the Pacers. I'm pretty sure some of them, probably
Might end up
majority,
going.
yeah, might have ended up going, but I think I'm obviously just where they're at in their timeline. Trying to get that top pick of this upcoming draft. I think I'm leaning towards the Clippers as well for this one, sir.
There you go, man. Yeah, well, there's another. My team in LA, they were playing last night. I think we defeated the Pelicans 110 to 101 yesterday. I don't know, man. We barely beat them by 9. I would argue this is not another non-quality win, right? Luca led us. I think he had 27 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, the whole 9. Shot 10 of 22 from the field. He just controlled the offense throughout the entire night, really. I think LeBron also had 21 points and 7 assists. He shot pretty efficiently from the floor, too. I think he shot 8 of 12 in this matchup. DeAndre Ayton had like 14 and 8, too. Mainly, though, down the stretch, I think this is kind of, like you said, you kind of turned it off. You were watching it as well. But
Mm-hmm.
I think New Orleans jumped out to an 8-point lead with just over 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, CJ. But the Lakers finally woke up, bro. And we held the Pelicans scoreless over the next 4 minutes. I think Austin Reeves hit a three-pointer with 5:04 left to put LA back up 96-94. And Marcus Smart and Luka Doncic both hit 2 threes in the final 2 minutes to kind of seal the deal. The win versus the Pelicans pushed us to 37-24 on the year. We're still 6th in the Western Conference. I spoke about this repeatedly on multiple podcasts, but it's just, okay, we beat the Pelicans. We beat these kind of run-of-the-mill teams. They're like, all right, these tanking teams, these teams that aren't that good. It's not to say that I'm not happy with the win, but I think to win in this fashion is a bit worrisome. And the fact that we had to play with them until the end. Zion Williamson had, I think he had 24 points. I think Trey Murphy also had 21 points. So they struggled from 3. Our defense has been a lot better. We only gave up 101 points, but again, scoring 110 points versus a pretty porous defense in the Pelicans, I think we have our own struggles on offense right now. And that's been the issue. It was the issue in this game. Even though we shot decently well, our stars definitely showed up. I think Austin Reeves, it's not that he's gone cold, but I think we need more from him. I think he did a lot on the glass last night, but the scoring, right, has gone down significantly
Mm-hmm.
since the first 2 months of the year. And that's a bit worrisome because heading into the playoffs, we know last year and the years before, he really struggled versus teams like the Timberwolves and the Nuggets to get going. And that's something that could hurt his value in the offseason. So we'll have to keep a close eye on that. But outside of that, man, just to see my team compete down the stretch, I can't complain in that fashion, right? Just still winning ugly, I think, is an important thing to bring up to you guys. Like, I think the Thunder do that very well. Sometimes you got to do that. I think in this
Mm-hmm.
game we did that. We've only played one since we talked Monday. So, yeah, man, I don't really feel any ways about that win. Again, it's not a quality win to me. You guys will hear me repeat that probably throughout into the playoffs, but I just want to see us get quality wins going into this time of the year because ultimately beating the Pelicans doesn't show me that we're ready to compete, right? It's, again, we brought up the loss versus the Magic, the loss versus the Suns, Royce O'Neal hitting a game winner, Paolo dropping 36, 38 points on our head. These are the losses that I remember because they matter,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, our schedule is, it's fairly easy. I think it's middle of the pack to finish out the year, but ultimately we're 6th in the West. I can't be that mad when we got the W. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, heading into the Thunder analysis, I brought it up earlier. Shea was sitting because we have it a back to back. We played tonight as well. We played yesterday, then we're playing today against the Knicks. The Oklahoma City Thunder picked up a 116-108 win over the Chicago Bulls on March 3rd, improving to 48-15 on the season. OKC controlled much of the game by winning the third quarter. We outscored the Bulls 32-22, which proved to be the decisive stretch after Chicago briefly grabbed momentum in the second and fourth quarters. The Bulls were led by Giddey, who recorded a triple double. Going against the old squad. I think
Of course,
that he
right?
had to show out. He got 20 points, 14 rebounds, and 10 assists, while shooting 7 of 14 from the field and 5 from 11 from three. That was, something I always said. Giddey, not saying that he could never develop a jump shot, but that was always the thing that I harped on him.
Was the question? Yeah.
Was a question mark for me, was always the 3-point shooting. So, he's obviously shot very efficient from the field. Rookie Matas Buzelis added 20 points and 7 rebounds, while Colin Sexton chipped in 22 points off the bench, and Trey Jones finished with 13 points and 6 assists. Chicago shot an efficient 38 of 84 from the field and 18 from 49 from three, 37%, but couldn't overcome the Thunder's consistent scoring and overall control of the game. Even without Shea, OKC's depth and timely scoring runs helped them maintain separation down the stretch, secure the 8-point road victory. Kind of like what you were saying, bro. Obviously, the Bulls, no shade. The Bulls, are always in the play-in talks for the Eastern Conference. This isn't the most quality win, but I think all the circumstances that, being said, Shea sitting out this game to play tonight, I think it was a solid win. I think it's kind of, I'm gonna keep saying it. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but just the depth of the team, bro. Like, I think
dude.
I brought him up
The
earlier.
best depth in the league.
Jared McCain, bro, dropping another 20 points off the bench. I think with what he's been able to do for us, bro, it's exactly what we needed. And I know I'm gonna bring it up again, but when you ask me what is something that we can improve on, after the All-Star break, heading into the second or third of the season, I guess you want to call it.
Third. Yeah, right.
Just seeing what he's been able to provide for us, I think it just, it's not, we don't have any shooters anymore. You know what I mean? With him and Isaiah Joe on the court at the same time, I think I called him our little mini version of the Splash Bros in a sense, just because we've never really had two efficient 3-point shooters on the court at the same time. So just seeing what he's been able to do, and then shout out to Jalen Williams, the other Jalen Williams on the team, for everyone that doesn't know.
Yeah, he's been
balling, bro. Just what he's been able to do. I think he grabbed 16 boards, got 17 points and 6 assists. And I talk about it, or I haven't talked about it a lot recently, but just the passing from our bigs, he's another one of those type of players that, he's a center, power forward at certain times, rotations and whatnot, but his passing ability is what really separates him from me. And also his 3-point shooting, bro. He's also been very efficient. And, I was seeing him take like contested mid-range pull-up jumpers and stuff. So just seeing him evolve his game to kind of get in where he fits in, I think that embodies what the Thunder are this season and what we have been the past 2 seasons. Just seeing him being able to contribute, and then obviously being able to get Aaron Wiggins scoring 18, Cason Wallace 17, Isaiah Joe 19.
Everybody.
It was a team effort, and I think we were beating the Bulls by like 21 points or something. They end up like I said earlier, having that run in the fourth quarter that kind of brought it a little bit closer, and it got, it wasn't super like muddy and sticky situation, but obviously I think, like how you were saying, a quality win. I would say this isn't the greatest win, right? But, anytime you're down your best player, you're on the road going against a, Eastern Conference team that is always in the play-in conversations, like you said, bro, I'll take the dub. And, I think just kind of it embodies what we've been all season. Just
resilient.
The depth, resilient, injuries all year, but we're still able to get, some pretty solid wins. No AJ Mitchell. Yeah, he's been out for a minute, like a month. So
yeah, he's been.
But no, it's been incredible, bro. Just seeing everyone playing. Obviously we're always going to be really good defensively. For me, it's just been offense, and it's looking like since Jared McCain has gotten to the squad, it kind of, I wouldn't even say it's really opening up the offense. It's just having someone else that could hit those jump shots besides Isaiah Joe. And then obviously Isaiah Joe has been having an incredible year as well. So shout out to the boys, bro. I mean, like I said, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but this was a
3-game win streak.
team win, 3-game win streak heading into the Garden tonight. So we'll see what that looks like. But, I cannot complain, bro. It's always good whenever your team wins, right?
Yeah,
So.
dude. Yeah, and you know what? It's nice to when you got the one game and it's the Bulls, right? Or it's the Pelicans. And so yeah, obviously both of our teams got the W, so we're moving towards the playoffs, CJ, but let's go out east, bro. Let's talk about the Bucks. The Bucks are 6-4 over their last 10, and they've managed that stretch mostly without Giannis, who recently returned. We brought him up earlier in the pod, but had those 19, I think it was, I said 20, but it was 19 points versus the Celtics. Yeah, the Giannis thing has been a mystery. We've been up and down with that this year. We don't know where he wants to be. He's demanded a trade. He's kind of this is like I don't really know how to explain it, but it's like I think he's like what do they call it? Like the midlife crisis? Yeah, he's in a midlife crisis. He don't really know what he wants to do. They call that midlife crisis. You hit 40, you're like, oh, you start panicking, the walls start shrinking. I think Giannis was feeling that a little bit before the All-Star break. But yeah, man, to have him back, I think they're excited about it. While Giannis was out, though, I think Kevin Porter Jr., he carried much of the offensive load for them during the stretch of 10 games. He was averaging 18.5 points, 7 assists, and 5.2 rebounds per game. He was completely running the offense. Him and Ryan Rollins were doing their thing. Bobby Portis, I think they had a stretch where they went like 7-1, maybe 8-2. They did not. Their strength of schedule was fairly easy. I think Bobby Portis was quoted saying that it was kind of fraudulent, which is interesting because he's on the team.
Yeah.
He's saying that it's like I don't know. But with Giannis returning, the Bucks could have and they will have a much more balanced attack. I think if Porter, Rollins, Portis, obviously, if they're all playing at a decently high level, I think when you add Giannis to that, they'll be playing a little bit better. Over the last 10 games as well, the Bucks ranked 21st in the NBA net rating, however, with a -6.4. In their 4 losses over this stretch, they have lost by an average loss margin of more than 20 points. So they've been getting blown out anytime they've lost. Which is also a little bit concerning. At least whenever the Lakers or the Thunder lose, it's not usually by 30. I think I've had a couple games, obviously, like that. You haven't had many duds like that, but all the Bucks losses have been pretty large losses, which is interesting. I think at this moment in time, I think Doc Rivers, too, is kind of searching for the answer. He doesn't really know who to trust, if it's Cam Thomas sometimes. I think Cam Thomas has been real cold over the last 5 games. But, yeah, they have been searching for somebody, and I think they've gotten some pop-off games. I brought him up earlier. Ryan Rollins has been good, whatever, but they've been searching for other people to step up. And I think when you lose by more than 20 in 4 losses, I think it kind of speaks to where your team is, even if you're doing okay. The reason we're doing a pulse check on Milwaukee is simply because we haven't spoken about Giannis in a long time. It's yet to be foreseen what will happen this summer with him and the Bucks. The one thing I did want to give them credit in Milwaukee, this is for you guys. I appreciate the not tanking as well, right? I think you guys could have been choosing to lose games given the landscape of the NBA, but you guys are still competing at a high level and trying to win games. And going 6-4 over the last 10 kind of speaks to that. They've struggled a little bit defensively. They've ranked 24th in the NBA over their last 10 games in defensive rating. The question is can they get their defensive issues figured out before the playoffs start? I think so. I think when Giannis comes back, he also adds a little bit more firepower to the defense. We know he's not really in DPOY talks anymore, but he does add value on that side of the ball. I don't know. I think they're kind of a fake. I think, okay, if Giannis is on your team, you get in the play-in and you win a couple games, I think anything can happen. But I don't necessarily expect the Bucks to make a ton of noise. I just think it's important to bring up that they could be a team that's tanking, but they're choosing not to for reasons that are yet to be known. I think they're unforeseen, and we'll see what happens during the summer. But I think having Giannis back in the fold for them is going to be it's going to be nice because y'all have missed that 30 points, 6 assists, 10 boards. Just having that in your lineup is going to be nice. But shout out KPJ. Wanted to bring him up earlier. Shouted him out but he was getting to it over the stretch. And so, yeah, Milwaukee, I think the writing is on the wall, like CJ and I like to say for you guys. I think we'll have to see. That offseason files this summer is going to be interesting.
Yeah, that's probably going to be one of the most interesting ones because it's where's Giannis going to go? Is he going to want to get traded? Is he going to stay on the Bucks? You know, I feel like that's something we've been asking for really this whole season, you know? So, yeah, you summed it up perfectly, bro. I think just what they've been able to, you know, get from KPJ, Ryan Rollins, you know, AJ Green is always efficient, you know, from the three. They have good players. I just don't think it's good enough to be competing for a championship. So like you said, I think it's just getting to that point where you are in the play-in, and if you do win a couple games, then you're in the playoffs. And I think for Giannis, that's probably what he's trying to do.
More than enough, yeah.
And I think that at this point for them, that's really all they can ask for. But I still don't think, like you said it earlier, it's not going to be enough to really be competitive in the playoffs. But like you said, it's just kind of the fact that they could be tanking and they haven't been. I think it kind of goes to show that, you know, the GM, what they're trying to do, you know, they're wanting to still be competing with Giannis because he is, you know, one of the best players in this league.
Yeah, he's so good. Exactly.
It's hard to really, let's just tank because, you know, he's not going to want to. So it's interesting, you know. I think it's shout out to them for not tanking because obviously there's teams this season that have been, but just, you know, roster or schedule hasn't been the hardest. So I think it just kind of shows that they can still compete, but are they going to be able to do it in the playoffs or in the highly competitive matchups, you know? And the fact that the 4 of their losses have been over 20 points, they're getting smacked. So I think that shows where they're at, and obviously not having Giannis, but is the team good?
Does he make that much of a
difference? You know, so
yeah.
I'm right with you in that one, bro. But shout out to Milwaukee though. Y'all definitely could be in a different situation and you could be tanking this season. But you know, y'all haven't been, and you know, you're still in the running for the play, and I think that's all that Giannis is probably wanting at this point.
I think that, like you said, you did a good job. I didn't really bring that up, but like, yeah, they have the Miles Turners, the AJ Greens, the Cam Thomases of the world, where if they get to, you know, an 8-1, you know, I wouldn't be shocked if they gave the Pistons a little scare.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I don't think the Pistons will sweep them. I think Giannis could win a game.
Right. Yeah. And I like we said, that's all they're trying to get to at this point. You know, obviously injury to Giannis is a huge you know, loss for them, but he's back now. So we'll see if the team can still click whenever he's on the roster. Going into the next storyline of this week, has Orlando lost their magic? Man, the Magic went all in this summer to heavily invest into the 2026 season. They traded for Desmond Bane from the Memphis Grizzlies, and Orlando sacrificed a major haul of draft picks for Bane. They traded 4 first-round picks, 2025, 26, 28, and 30. A 2029 pick swap, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Cole Anthony for Bane in hopes that he could improve their three-point shooting. Unfortunately for the Magic, well past the midway point, they sit at a 32-28 record, good for 7th in the Eastern Conference. Normally, this would have placed the Magic ahead of schedule, but at this point, they are now behind the championship timeline they were hoping for to open after trading for Bane. Franz Wagner has missed 32 games this season due to injury. Paolo is shooting 45% from the field and recently had a game with 9 turnovers and got into it with Jamal Mosley after the game. And Bane is averaging 20.4 points per game, 4.1 rebounds per game, and 4.1 assists per game on 48% shooting. Great numbers, but not worth 4 first-round picks of the Magic's future. Both Bane and Paolo have performed much better since the All-Star game, but despite that, the Magic are still in a transition period. Will they be able to make noise in the playoffs? Man, as a someone that was super high on the Magic, has been high on the Magic, it's been a rocky season for them. Obviously, you know, they last season missing Franz and Paolo for a huge chunk of the season. This season, it's more so Franz, but for them, it just seems like they just can't all be healthy at the same time. Obviously, Jalen Suggs has been in and out the lineup all year. They've
He's been
had
good too when he's
he's
played.
been
Anthony
good.
Black
Anthony Black, Tristan Da Silva, they have Jonathan Isaac at moments. He's one of those players.
times. Yeah, at times.
Defensively, he's gonna provide it. It's just offensively, but man, I was super high
Yeah.
on them, bro, and just seeing how they've been performing this year. Obviously, not having a full healthy roster, we definitely gotta take that in consideration. But I still think even without you having all three guys, you still in the landscape of what the Eastern Conference is, you should be a top 4 seed in my eyes. So that being said, I'm not saying that they can't turn their season around and make noise in the playoffs, but it's still going to be very tough for them to do so, just because I feel like
Look at the Knicks.
what we held or what we always brought up with the Magic in the past couple of seasons was the defense, right? I feel like that has kind of fallen off. You've gotten Bane,
Yeah.
who's been able to do really well since the All-Star break, but he kind of got started off the season slow. Now he's kind of starting to get his groove, and Paolo, like we said earlier, is having up and down season of him dropping. Was it 39 yesterday? I think he dropped 36 against you, the Lakers, the other night whenever y'all played them. So he's starting to kind of get his footing. I don't want to bring it up because I feel like I've brought it up a decent amount, but I feel like they're getting to that territory where with how the Boston Celtics were with the JB and JT situation of, oh, this person's better, y'all should trade this guy. I feel like those rumblings have kind of already been going, and we've seen them without Paolo, them without Franz, and at time, honestly, it looks like they're both great players, obviously, but when they're on the court at the same time, I feel like the production isn't matching what it looks like on paper. So that's kind of been my thing with them all season. It looks like they're better without one of their top three players on their team. So
Yeah.
it's just been very
I'll,
inconsistent for them.
I want to
So
ask you this. Okay. Playoffs start today. They play the Knicks. Do they
Mhm.
beat the Knicks? Simply put.
Nah, but I think it goes like 6.
Yeah, I think it would be closer than people think. That's
It
why I
would be a
asked.
good series, but I don't think they beat them. And I feel like for them,
Well, there you go, Magic fans.
that was their point of getting Desmond Bane, was to at least make it to the second round, And
That's
then
what I'm saying.
if you can't do
I'm like,
that,
oh my god.
yeah. So it's interesting, bro. It's like
Yeah.
on paper, great roster. Obviously, top, there are 3 top players or, top 50 players in this league, but it just hasn't been able to all figure itself out. And whenever they're all on the court at the same time, it looks like it's very your turn, my turn type of ball, which I feel like obviously with the player that Paolo is, he can do that at moments, but throughout this whole
So
season, he's
ISO heavy.
pretty inefficient. When he's
Very
going, he's
inefficient,
going.
mid-range.
And then Franz is kind of like the reverse of that, to where he's not more ISO. He's trying to get other people involved, but he also needs the
More
ball in his
downhill,
hand to get downhill to score. And obviously, their 3-point shooting for both of them isn't the greatest, so you're relying so heavily on Desmond Bane and Jalen Suggs and De Silva, like those type of players to kind of
Anthony Black.
Anthony Black to
I was gonna say, if we did a most improved team, like if the NBA did that, just 5 guys, I think Anthony Black makes that. If
For
you
sure.
if you ask probably most Magic fans, right? The reason we're bringing it up so much, guys, is just like if you ask people who've had the best season this year, it's probably be him. For being honest, which is surprising because they have, like CJ's saying, they got Paolo, they have Desmond Bane, they got Franz, but all those guys are just putting up the same numbers. It's not like they're not having a breakout year. So I think the fact that they hit on Anthony Black, even if they don't go to the finals this year, that's still a W.
For sure.
But I think the reason I asked you the question is like, if they don't make it out of the first round, you said it earlier, for people who didn't catch it, the 4 first-round picks, bro, is like,
tough.
That's it. Let's see. So 2026. So that pick, bro, I think you want a pick in this draft.
For sure.
You really do. So that one's really tough to let go of. The 2028, 2030, I don't mind too much.
Right.
I also think that Cole Anthony was a little underrated, letting go of him. He used to contribute for a team. I don't think he's on a roster anymore, which is crazy. But, he used to be a pretty heavy contributor for the Magic. I didn't really know why they traded him in the first place.
Right. Yeah, me either. He's one of those, like spark plug guys. He could come off your bench,
Right.
score 20, 30 points at certain times. So yeah, it's interesting, and that's kind of what they're needing. They just need to be able to get someone that could score, and obviously you have that, but in a very iso-centric offense to where Paolo is a point guard, kind of, but he's more of power forward.
Hybrid
Yeah,
power point
he's
guard.
a
Yeah,
power
whatever.
point guard. Yeah, so
Exactly.
and
He's
he's
bringing the
not
ball up and
bringing the ball
yeah,
up and really just get into the post or get into the mid range
exactly.
and kind of working from that point. You don't
No,
really
yeah.
have any other creation, and that's kind of where Cole Anthony filled in that void for him. But like you said, Anthony Black, incredible pickup, and then they have a couple other bench guys that like really aren't even getting run. So it's interesting. Jace Richardson was the one I was thinking of. I couldn't think
Of
of his
course.
name, but it's yeah. You traded your future to buy into this season specifically, and it's not turning out how you expected it to. And obviously, you have been doing well now, but it's when Franz comes back, what is that going to look like? Paolo is probably not going to be dropping 35 points a game or whatever he's been these past since the All-Star break. So
Yeah,
it's gonna be
we'll see if they
interesting.
can get their magic back for
Yeah,
sure. And I think it's the little Eastern Conference mashup
it
segment.
is.
We're staying at Washington. We're staying in the East, but Trae Young is returning. I think he's returning tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, versus the Jazz. The Wiz Kids. The Wizards season has been interesting to say the least. Now with Trae Young and Anthony Davis on the team, the question remains, CJ, can Washington somehow become relevant within the next few years? I guess we'll have to see, because over the last 10 games, the Wizards are just 2-8 and ranked 28th in the NBA in overall net rating with a minus 12.8. Man, Washington, I just wanted to say this. I've been waiting for like an hour to say this. Like, y'all have been playing abysmal basketball. But I think there's light at the end of the tunnel. I think Trae Young coming back says a lot. I didn't think that they would put him in the lineup.
Me either.
Even against the Jazz, I didn't think they would show their hand, but I think he wants to play, which is awesome. I
Mm-hmm.
think he went to their front office and was like, hey, can I get in a game? That's got to be worth something,
Mm-hmm.
And I think for Wizards fans, you guys obviously like y'all went all in on the AD and the Trae Young trades. Like y'all want to see these guys on the court. Y'all aren't just trying to have them on the roster. So the minus 12.8, I'm sure Trae Young eats into that as well. So I did want to bring up that. I know y'all have played abysmal basketball, but when you add a player of Trae Young's caliber, he's not going to make you worse. Hopefully, right? I know defensively he might, but
Mm-hmm.
he's going to bring up that net rating a little bit. Like I said, as of right now, things aren't looking much brighter for Washington. They also ranked 29th in defensive and also offensive rating in the NBA this year. The few bright spots on the team involve Alex Sarr, Trey Johnson, Keyshawn George, and at times Bilal Coulibaly when he's healthy. I think that's a really big caveat there for Wizards fans. You guys have been waiting for Bilal Coulibaly to get the 3-point shot, get the offensive game. Hate to break it to you, it may never come. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think it has to, though. I think he can breathe that wing like 3 and D. Like if he can hit some corner threes and guard really well, I don't think he needs to be a 20 points per game scorer. I think Alex Sarr will be that for you guys. You guys hit on him. That's an A+ draft pick. And Keyshawn George as well is another A+ draft pick. Obviously, Trey Johnson, I'd say is an A. I wouldn't say A+ just yet. We'll still have to see what it looks like in a larger role for him playing alongside Trae Young. But yeah, I think Alex Sarr, right, has had a breakout year this season. I did want to bring him up. I think he's averaging 17.8 points a night. He's pulling down 8 boards and blocking 2 shots. I think Keyshawn George and Trey Johnson are also averaging about 12 to 14 points a game each. So they're both also having pretty good seasons. So I did want to bring that up because there are a couple bright spots on this squad. We know the Wizards are really excited for Trae Young to come back to the lineup Thursday. However, in the 10 games he's played this season for Atlanta, he is averaging his lowest points per game since his rookie season, averaging 19.3 points per game on just 41% shooting from the floor. Once the Wizards are healthy, will AD make that much of a difference too? He's also missed 41 games now in the year and hasn't looked like himself since he was traded from LA to Dallas for Luka Doncic. I think the AD case is interesting, right? Because we've seen Trey a little bit this season. We've seen AD a little bit this year. Both of those guys haven't had the best years, I would say, at all. Probably one of the worst years out of both of their careers in general. But I will say, both of them healthy has to be an interesting duo. I think you will get a couple lobs. You will get 20-point performances from both of them. And while they may not have performed up to expectations this season, I think there is a little bit of hope for you guys. And I think we haven't spoken about the Wizards in this much depth in a little while. The offseason files for you guys will be interesting. The contracts, yeah, that's another story. The books don't look clean anymore. You got the 50 million due to two max players now that honestly in the NBA, like people don't think are worth the 60 million anymore. So that is a little worrisome for me because we're gonna have to see how that value shakes up in the Eastern Conference. But you guys are in the East, so I think anything can happen. Both Trae Young and AD, if they do give you this is best case scenario, right? This is like best outcome. They both play more than 60 games. AD is probably going to give you max 65. I think Trae Young has the chance to play more than 70 next year, right? If he's healthy. You guys get a 6 seed and you're playing the 3, or what is it? Is it the 3 seed? Yeah, 6-3 seed. So yeah, you're playing the 3 seed. Who knows, bro?
Yeah.
Who knows? That's like the best case scenario in my opinion. I don't think they'll be a top 3 seed next year. We'll talk about it in the offseason, but I'm not gonna say that right now. But I think you guys need to improve a lot on the defensive end. I think AD does that for you guys. And then offensively, Trae Young does that for you guys. So on paper, it looks like you guys have some more brightness coming your way. So Wizards fans, this was the rare 3-man weave segment for you guys. But CJ, what do you think on this bit before we go to the coach?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, bro. I definitely was not expecting Trae Young to return. I thought he was probably just gonna sit this whole season. Obviously that he thinks he's healthy enough. The team thinks he's healthy enough to play. So shout out to that. I think, like you said, that's kind of a bright spot for the Wizards, especially the way that their season's been going and where they're at in the standings and whatnot. But like you said, it's the fact that they have been so bad and Trae Young is wanting to come back. I think it kind of says more about what he's where he's at in his career, what he's trying to prove to people that he still is, one of a top 10 guard in this league. And I think, like you said, best case scenario, whenever they do get Trae Young, Anthony Davis this upcoming season or this next season, and what that can be, I think that is what they're looking forward to. Whatever that looks like you said, at best probably a 6 seed, but I would say, based off of just, on paper, we don't know what is going to happen in the offseason. We don't know this, we don't know that, but I think that's a good enough to make up the playoffs, so
I agree.
I think that's a hopeful thing for them, especially, a team that has not made the playoffs since, was it that Russ year whenever he went there with like Porzingis and stuff. So it's been a while, so they have not been in the playoff environment. I think that's all they're trying to look forward to, or look forward to at this point. And that's not a bad thing. We talk about it all the time. Every team, every franchise's goal is to win a championship, but they're aware of where they're at. They have a lot of good young talent. They saw that they could bring in 2 all NBA type players for very low. This is probably the only really opportunity that they're gonna get to be able to get these type of players realistically. So, they had to buy in on it. Bottom at their lowest probably that they've been in their career.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But it's if it's gonna work out. And like we said it, on paper, Trae, we always talk about, Wizards need to improve on offense and defense. They're in that bottom barrel of the league to where they got to do both. They got 2 players that can help them on both sides of the ball. So it's just what that ends up looking like. But I'm excited, bro. I'm excited to see Trae Young play. I love the way he plays. Being a smaller guard, he can, light it up from the 3 and obviously dish out the ball. But this season wasn't the most efficient. And you brought it up earlier, the fact that this is his lowest scoring output for a season so far since his rookie year. I think shows where he's at, but he still has a lot of years still left in him. He could definitely turn this around. I think, why not do it on the Wizards? They're in the same type of timeline that both of these players are in. So it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah,
I like, exactly. Like just trying to rise from the
Revitalize,
ashes.
yeah,
So
revitalize your career.
I think it's a perfect spot for both of these players, and whenever they get there, man, the offseason files, they're the last team, so that's gonna be
Yeah,
something I'm gonna be
always.
looking forward
Yes,
to. So
it's a good point. They
whenever
are
we
the
get to
last
that
team.
point, I'm excited. I'm gonna be excited. Obviously, two max players for a roster that you're
It's
gonna
a
have
good
to
point,
pay a
CJ.
lot of these young guys. Sar, like you brought him up, having a great year this year, bounce back year, kind of.
Man, Wizards fans wait patiently for everything.
Yeah.
W W's in real life,
Mm-hmm.
man. I gotta in the alphabet, and
Yeah.
y'all want real W's too in
Yep.
real life. Like, man, come on, man. Shout
Yeah,
out to
bro.
Washington
Shout out to
Wizards, bro.
Washington, bro. Like you said, we haven't been talking about y'all a lot this season. So hopefully y'all got something to look forward to with Trey Young and AD whenever he gets onto the court. Chill, man. You want to give the people what they came here for, I guess.
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it. I honestly, you do this one because I'm not gonna spoil it, but I got my own opinions, so
I
we'll
got
hear
you.
about it.
I got you. So, for everyone that doesn't know, we've been going through all of the awards for this end of the year. We're doing a mid-season awards race. This episode's going to be Coach of the Year. And then started off, man, this was a spot where we felt like a lot of coaches could have been in this position. I
For
won't say
real.
I won't spoil it, so
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
just
yeah.
leave it at that. But at the third spot, man, we got Joe Mazzulla. Joe Mazzulla is third on our list for Coach of the Year because of the expectations the Celtics had going into the season. Without Jason Tatum, it was hard to foresee that they'd be sitting at 41-20 on the season, second in the East, with the second best offense in the NBA. The Celtics also rank fifth in the NBA in defense rating this year and are holding opponents to just 110 points per 100 possessions. Mazzulla has yet to win Coach of the Year, and given his championship resume, it's no secret he could finish higher on this list when the season is over. So, I brought it up. This spot was kind of
Yeah.
up for grabs in our eyes. Obviously, I just said it. I think Mazzulla would be third on my personal list just because of what he's been able to do this season with the expectations, like I said earlier. Obviously, missing Tatum is a huge factor. I think we brought it up earlier as well. Just the roster construction was all over the place. You lost Horford, obviously you lost Porzingis, Simons, like you said earlier as well, Z. But just I had to take that in consideration. Them being, one of the best
Yeah.
teams in the Eastern Conference, and we weren't expecting them to do that. I think that alone kind of puts them in this spot. But this is one of the spots where you could have had, there's a lot of other cases for, multiple other coaches, especially same reason, the expectations that we had set for said team and them over exceeding it. So I think that kind of just goes to show how competitive the league has been this year. Obviously, some teams tanking, but
Yes.
a lot of other teams that have over exceeded our expectations we had set for them. So like I said earlier, this may not be one of the awards that a lot of people are so hyped for us to hear us talking about, but for us personally, as fans of hoops and as people that watch the sport all season long and talk about it in the off season, it's been incredible for what Joe Mazzulla has been able to do this season.
Yeah, and you know what? Bias aside, like I can name them for people. Obviously, there's only three spots, right? So we can't pick everyone. But for me, I had Charles Lee. You could put Jordan Knott. You could put Mark Daigneault. You could put Ty Lue. You could. So CJ said it before we got on here. There's probably 10 people
Mm-hmm.
realistically for all 10 spot, like 1 through 3 obviously, but then that third spot is like up for grabs. When we were going through it, I put Charles Lee. Reason being is the Hornets turnaround. They've been white hot over the last month and a half of the season, and like we said, expectation wise, right? Like I think the Celtics obviously have won the championship within the last 5 years or this decade. The Hornets haven't touched the playoffs, right?
Yeah,
The fact that they're
in the
making a
playoff.
playoff, they're making a playoff push. Charles Lee has them playing obviously at a very high level of brand of basketball, but specifically on the offensive end. You brought it up. Their defensive struggles are one thing. I think Mazzulla has them beat there. I think Mark Daigneault makes sense here. Jordan Knott also makes sense. Suns, just bottom of the barrel. Everybody wants their draft picks. Now nobody wants their draft picks. Why? Because they're probably okay,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're pretty decent. Yeah, just Ty Lue as well. The Clippers just with the horrible
Turnaround
start, turning it
season.
around,
Mm-hmm.
somehow finding their way into a potential play-in spot, which they might be one of the only teams in NBA history to do that. I'm telling y'all that now. It doesn't seem like a lot because it's only a play-in spot, so y'all aren't gonna remember it. But me and CJ will, I
Well, yeah,
promise. So
definitely. I will
Ty
because
Lue,
that's
yeah,
our pick.
yeah, facts. I know you will because
Yeah.
that's the pick, like you said, bro.
Yeah.
But for people, like I think it's a good discourse, man, because there's
Mm-hmm.
only 3 spots, and like you said, Coach of the Year is actually an interesting one where we actually get to talk about it. I feel like a lot of these, like we're not gonna put in the MVP voting Donovan Clingan, right? Like
Right.
it's,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
got to make sense, but I think there's a lot of guys that you could put at the 3 spot. So shout out
Mm-hmm.
Charles Lee. That was my 3rd spot.
Mm-hmm.
CJ, we went with Joe Mazzulla because the dice roll on Google, that's the way it fell. So
Yeah.
shout out Joe Mazzulla, Celtics. I'm not for you guys, but he's done a hell of a job over there. So
100%.
yes, sir. Moving on to second on our list, though. It's none other than JB Bickerstaff. JB Bickerstaff, Coach Bickerstaff could win this award depending on how well the Pistons finish this year. Bickerstaff is leading Detroit to the best record in the East with a 45-15 record. The Pistons rank 3rd in the NBA net rating and also rank 2nd in the NBA in defense this season, allowing opponents to score just 108.4 points per 100. Possessions on 43.9% shooting from the floor. The reason Bickerstaff is 2nd is because of the turnaround he's led Detroit to over the past 2 seasons. The Pistons, for people who don't know, were the worst team in the NBA just 2 years ago with a record of 14-68. Now, fast forward to today, and they've been to the playoffs going last season versus the Knicks, even though they lost. And now they are 1st in the East in front of Boston and the Knicks. So JB Bickerstaff, obviously, for people who may not know, used to coach the Cavs. Kenny Atkinson took over, won Coach of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
I think it adds more fuel to the fire. You can put more gas on this, on that campfire. But JB Bickerstaff having the #1 record in the East, Detroit top 3, obviously net rating and defense. Their offense is top 12, not as great. JB Bickerstaff, to me, I think he's been the secret ingredient. For people who don't remember, Coach Monty Williams went to Detroit. They gave him a hell of a contract,
Bag. Yep.
a bag. I think they're still
I think
paying
stay
to
up.
this
Yeah, I would say
day.
they're still paying him. Yep.
So for JB to come in here and do, obviously change the lineup, give Cade Cunningham the keys to the offense, let him be him. Jalen Duren, I think I got to credit him with his development, just seeing what he's turned into as well. I think you got to credit Coach JB. But yeah, just seeing that they're 1st in the East and their turnaround over the last 2 years, I think the NBA knows that. People are taking note. This one wasn't really up for debate. I feel like if you've noticed what the Pistons have been doing over this season, you got to, obviously their head coach is good. So yeah, JB Bickerstaff, man, coming in at 2nd on our list. You got to give it to him.
Yeah. Yeah. You said it perfectly, bro. I think it's just the turnaround because, I mean, we've said it multiple times and we're going to probably keep saying it for the foreseeable future, but just the turnaround that he has done for the Pistons, you know, being the worst team in the
He
league
helped
2 years
instill,
ago, you know, going
yeah,
on to that, was it 24 game losing streak? They didn't win a game for like 2 months or something, you know, and the fact that you led them to, you know, their first playoff win, I think, since what was it, that the year that Blake
Blake
Griffin,
Griffin,
yeah,
yeah,
20s, was it 17, 18, whatever?
20,
So,
yeah, it was 2017-18.
you know,
Motor City.
going on a decade, bro, of them not, you know, having a playoff win, and he was able to come in. Obviously, a lot of development, but he has a lot to do with that. Like you said, giving Cade the keys and trusting him and kind of building a team around him, and you know, buying. I mean, it's something, you know, you brought it up, but just their defense, right? Just something that Detroit is known for. The bad boys, even early 2000s
Yeah,
Pistons, has
bro.
always been defense, and the fact that he came back, or he came into the realm and has kind of set the tone of that, and you know, they bought in, and you know, obviously Cade is having a fantastic year, so I think it kind of just everything has piled up to get them to where they're at now. And yeah, no, he's definitely got to be in this conversation for sure.
I
But
love it.
but the #1 guy, right? Y'all, I think y'all know who it is. If y'all
For
know ball,
sure.
y'all know who it is. It's the one and only Mitch Johnson of the San Antonio Spurs. Mitch Johnson is three-man Wee's Coach of the Year so far. The Spurs have been great this year, sitting second in the West with a 44-17 record. They also rank eighth in the NBA in offensive rating this season, scoring 116.9 points per 100 possessions. San Antonio also ranks fourth in the NBA in defensive rating this season, allowing opponents to score just 110 points per 100 possessions. The Spurs have been able to dominate all season on both ends of the floor, and similar to Detroit, they too had a very quick roster turnaround over the last two seasons. Johnson, an all-star head coach this year, also led the Spurs to defeat OKC 3 straight times during the midst of their chase for the Warriors' 73-9 record. The combination of all three, narratives, how the Spurs have played, and roster turnaround, catapult Mitch Johnson to the top of our list. Man, I think this, obviously with Pop retiring, with Wemby turning to the player that he is, you're them getting great draft picks, Dylan Harper, Steph Castle. They set Mitch Johnson up perfectly, and I think obviously this is not taking away from him. You still have to go in there, come with your game plans, and he's been able to do it perfectly. Obviously, being the Thunder's kryptonite essentially this season, I think it kind of proved where they're at on their timeline, and it. I think I heard, I don't remember who it was exactly, but someone asked a player on the Spurs roster if y'all's timeline. Oh no, that was Detroit. My fault. I'm not gonna say that. But their timeline has just sped up, and now them being the second team in the West. I think it kind of shows what Mitch Johnson has been able to do with them, with the roster, and just the foundation that they had set. A lot of coaches could have been in this situation and been losing, and we would be talking about it in a different light. So the fact that he was able to fill in those shoes that Popovich left, and obviously he hasn't won the chips yet. We're not getting too ahead of ourselves, but turning your season around, getting the top, was it fourth pick last year, second pick the other year, and then first pick. Y'all have been bad, so y'all have the recipe, and you have gotten the players that you need to get to this point, but you also had to execute it. And obviously that's all the head coach in that point, and your game plans, and what they've been able to do with Wemby, just having him hold down the paint, surround him with great perimeter defenders and people that, guards that can attack the rim, score on all three levels. I think it was just a matter of time for them. But obviously, not taking away from Mitch Johnson, because he definitely is the head of the snake, and he's been able to, be the person, deciding the rotations, who's going to be on the court at certain times, because that was something we talked about this season. They had essentially that log jam at that guard position. How is that going to look like? And, obviously it's Mitch Johnson, the genius behind all those. So shout out to him, bro. Shout out to Mitch Johnson.
Yeah. Hell of a coach. Somebody I got to see this season in the flesh. I think you set it up perfectly, but I think the Spurs just environment, RC Buford, just their whole thing, their whole lineage, Coach Pop, Duncan, Ginobili, Parker, they have so many. I saw Rashard Lewis is a player development coach.
I did see that.
I saw him in Moody. I said, man, that's sick. Because that's a cat, that's a cold cat.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cat you want. It's just, they just got good guys over there, bro. So for him to be set up so well, and for the Spurs to be performing at this level, I'll be honest with you guys, I don't think they expected to be in this spot. But they know Wemby was always ready. I don't think they knew what they had with Castle. Obviously, he's a top 50 player in the NBA as well. And then Dylan Harper, man, just seeing what they've got. And then all the vets, right? Like you said, I think Mitch Johnson's done a great job of understanding matchups, knowing where to put guys. I think he's given Keldon Johnson a ton of leeway this year, Devin Vassell a ton of leeway this year. And yeah, man, San Antonio's second in the West, biting on the Thunder's heels somehow. They've climbed this ladder over the last 2 months. And obviously Mitch Johnson was the all-star head coach as well, so that was dope. But yeah, bro, he's got to win. He's really got to win. It's his award to lose. Mm-hmm. I think the back half of this competition is a little bit more jumbled than the front half. I feel like he's pretty comfy in this spot right now. So shout out Mitch Johnson. I don't want to see your ass in the playoffs, though. I'm not.
Yeah, fact. Me either, bro. Me
I'm not
either.
trying to see your ass, but shout out to
out.
Mitch Johnson.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, CJ, I got Dynasty. I'm gonna keep
Dynasty.
it quiet, short and simple. Hey, I'm gonna be real hush, okay? Because Reed Shepard popped off. Y'all saw it on the live reaction. It hasn't dropped yet, but it'll come out. Y'all will see my reaction. It's at the end of the pod. So if you want to go skip to the end and watch it, you can. If you're one of those people. But I'll say this, bro. Okay, so Edgecombe DMP'd versus the Jazz. He only has one more game versus Atlanta this week. So like if he don't give me something, I could be cooked. But I got 44 points from Jeremy Grant. I only got 37 fantasy points from Chet Holmgren, which I might have to lock in.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he just didn't get me any blocks.
Yeah. Yeah, he dropped 28.
Yeah, he had like 30 though.
Mm-hmm.
He had like 30, but he didn't get me any blocks. It's looking okay, guys. I think Cooper Flag's got to get back in the lineup. We'll see, man. But as of right now, I think, our brother's projected still for like 800 points. I'm only projected for like 760. So I gotta make I gotta catch up here. And I don't really have a ton of games. I'm gonna see VJ play Saturday, so it'll give me a day to mess with him just for Sunday, just in case I need an extra body. But the fact that he's in that shooting guard spot, it makes it tough because the way our league is, you can only pick up, it's position locked. I can't just put in whoever, wherever. So you got to be smart with what you're doing. I'm not going to hold y'all too long. I know this has been a longer one. So yeah, we'll be back Monday with the conclusion of what's happened. I'll say that.
Yeah. Perfectly summed up. Because, y'all know I'm just waiting for this matchup between Z and his brother. So I'm watching closely, seeing who I got to go against. Obviously, Franz is injured. I have a lot of injuries right now. So I needed this 2-week bye to hopefully get some players back, because it could get a little ugly for me in this second round. I'm gonna have to move some people around, figure out. Obviously, I got Shea, I got Steph Castle, so I got some players. But if one of them get injured, if some people miss time, it might get a little sticky for me. But that's all y'all hear from me for now. You'll hear more on Monday, because I'll know who I'm going against. So. Yeah. Anything else you want to let these people know before we head up?
That's it for me, man. Just hopefully I can do something in the fantasy department. We'll see. I'm not too mad at it. Still got my brother's pick, so it is what it is. But I'm kind of playing with house money, man. I'm not supposed to be here.
Right. Yeah, you said, hey, you're going for broke. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. I'm going for broke. You remember it. I'm going for broke. Screw it. I'm going to be picking up bodies just to get extra points. So, that's going to do it for the boys over here at 3-Man Weave, man. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Obviously, if you're new here, thank you. We appreciate it for checking out the video. That's going to do it. Peace.
3-Man.